The question we're going to answer today is, on the recovery of the rowing stroke, should I allow my heels to rise off of the footboards? And the simple answer is yes. We'll get into more detail soon. But the more important question is, once I am in this position, what happens next? So during the rowing stroke, as the arms come out, body comes forward, and we roll through, those heels are going to rise at the front end of the stroke. And this is because we want to fully compress into the front end of the machine, utilizing as much possible chain length as we can. So arriving fully into the front end on the recovery, allowing the chain to fully recoil, allows us to utilize all the chain length across the drive. And the importance of making sure that we recover fully into the front end is that we want to get as much chain length as possible on the drive. If we only recover to half slide, the best we could possibly hope for is a half slide stroke. So it's important to arrive fully compressed, sitting up, sitting forward, allowing that handle to travel all the way to the front end of the machine, allowing the chain to recoil so we have all the chain across the drive. And as you saw in the strokes that I was just taking, my heels are rising as I arrive at the front end of the rowing stroke. Slightly, but still coming off of those footboards. And that's okay, because again, what we're looking for is a nice long stroke. Now that position, fully compressed with my heels coming slightly off of the footboards, is a position that is sometimes of contention. Some people will ask, well, is that the most powerful position to be able to drive? And the answer is no, not necessarily. When our feet are flat against the footboards, right, in this flat position here, that's more powerful. Once the heels are down, once the heels settle, then we're able to much better utilize our glutes and our hamstrings. If we arrive at the front end and our heels stay elevated as we press out, I'm activating the calves and I'm using my quad to dominate that motion. If, on the other hand, we arrive, the heels are elevated, but as we press, we immediately get those heels down, or as quickly as possible, we allow the heels to settle. Now we're using more of the legs. And that push and pull is really that if we limited ourselves to only rolling as far forward as we can without the heels coming up, then this is as far in as I can go. But the reality of the rowing stroke is that there is momentum and freedom as we roll through. So instead of strokes which we're pinning the heel down to the footboard, which are going to be shorter strokes, limited by the flexibility in my ankles, I can roll forward, let them come up just a bit, get a much longer stroke, much more dynamic stroke, much better acceleration across the entirety of the drive, because the heels come up, but they also settle quickly. In a lot of ways, this is a yes, but discussion. Should my heels come up as I roll into the front end of the rowing stroke? Yes. But as soon as we start to drive, we want those heels settling down so we can utilize all of our leg. Not just our quads, but hips, hamstrings, glutes, low back, working together as we drive through. And part of the reason that this all works is because of how the fan works in the rowing machine. When we come into the front end of the stroke, the fan has not stopped. It is not at a standstill. Instead, as we drive and accelerate, that fan is going to speed up and get lighter and faster. And as we come forward, it's going to slow down, slow down, slow down. We're going to grab it, we're going to accelerate it, and then it's going to slow down, slow down, slow down. So it doesn't stop. And because it doesn't stop, it allows us to be at the front end with the heels up a bit in what some people may think is a compromise pressed position, but it works because the fan is moving. So we're picking up the fan and adding to it. We connect to the fan and add to it across the drive. Press and go. So there's an ebb and flow, and we're working with that ebb and flow. You don't want to fight the machine, you want to move with it. And since it is moving, it allows us to come into the front end, heel slightly raised off the foot stretchers, right? Slightly raised off the footboards. We can connect to it, and then we can let that heel settle and press and go. The heel comes up, and then we let it settle and we press and go. And that's the ebb and flow that we can move with the rowing machine. It is not stop and then go, and then we come forward and stop and go. If that were the case, it would be much more difficult to do anything other than arrive at the front end of the stroke with the heels firmly planted onto the plate. If any of you have ever done a start on the rowing machine from a standstill, this is the position you start from. You don't start from here. You don't start further in with the heels raised. That's not how you do it. This is the strongest position to take the fan from a dead standstill and to improve power. But once the fan is getting up to speed, once it's maintaining speed, once you're in that ebb and flow of accelerating and then floating through and letting it build and letting the fan die a little bit and letting it build, once you're there, it's no longer about trying to pick up some big rock, move it, and set it down. Instead, we're just trying to flow and keep that fan moving, encourage that fan along every single stroke. And so we want to row long, and the length of stroke and the amount of time and distance that we're able to put onto that chain helps us maintain speed, helps us maintain splits, helps us maintain watts. And so it's okay to have the heel slightly raised, but then press back down. That's that give and take. We want to create length on our recovery, so we have length on the drive. We understand with the heel up, it's not the strongest position to press from. Still a pretty good one. You can still put a lot of power. The important thing simply becomes that we do not want to arrive at the front end of the stroke with the heels raised and then maintain the heel raise throughout the stroke. If you are feeling pressure, tension, activation in your calves at any point in the rowing stroke, you are doing it wrong. The calves are passengers. They do nothing. They don't add to rowing. They do not contribute to the rowing stroke. If you are feeling pressure in the calves either at the catch and through the drive or at the finish as if you're trying to toe off, it's not helpful. In a lot of ways, rowing takes place from the knee to the armpit. Any effort, any tension below the knee, any effort, any tension above the shoulder is not useful in the rowing stroke. Let me repeat that because it's super, super important. Rowing takes place from the knee to the armpit. Nothing below the knee should ever be activated or tense. Nothing above the shoulder should ever be activated or tense. That's just wasted effort in rowing. So understanding that your lower legs are just passengers, then really what it's about is just allowing freedom and flexibility in your ankles and looseness in your calves where they're not doing anything, and that allows you to come in to the front end as far as possible before the heels need to rise. So creating greater flexibility in your ankle allows you to get further into the front end before the heels rise up, allows that heel to settle even faster as you initially drive out, and creates a more effective drive. So the good news is if you just relax the calves and relax the ankles, as you come forward, you are just going to create greater flexibility in the ankle and allow that knee to get closer to your toes before the heels need to rise. And then when you press out, it settles quickly. So greater flexibility in your ankles, passivity in the calves allows you to come in further before the heels rise, and then you're able to settle those heels more quickly off the front end, and you get the advantage of that longer rowing stroke. You are able to take the handle from all the way recoiled into the front end of the stroke, all the way across that plane to that good solid finish position. And in doing so, you're creating greater efficiency, greater durability, greater speed, greater averages. And that's what we're looking for in rowing. We're not looking to work harder in rowing. Rowing's hard enough. We want to match our hard effort with efficiency so that we have durability over any distance, any amount of time, that we have a rowing stroke that's going to hold up and allow us to put in the highest level of pressure and make sure that all of the effort that we are putting into the rowing machine is being captured by the machine and is being output by the machine. If you found this discussion helpful, please like, subscribe, watch all of our other videos, and I've got more content coming for you soon.